cloud.
Yep. Okay.
Well-
So the first item is the applications for the vacant April seat. We got 2 applications. One was from Adrianita Reyes Cruz and the other from Neil Court Camp. These 2 individuals were 2 that ran for the seat before and were certified by the city already as being eligible for that seat. So is there any questions about that?
No, last night, I mean, Victor can correct me if I make a mistake here. I asked in the governing board, executive board, that they include the election
On
or
the
the
agenda?
selection on the agenda.
Well, yeah, they
And I
will.
asked them to list the names.
Right.
And then Christian came and said, well, he'd like to also put it online and with a brief statement from both the candidates, if possible.
Yeah, we don't have statements from the candidates at this point.
We don't? Don't we have to have that?
No, we don't. We've never in the, when we've done it by the board selecting, we've never asked them for statements. So we don't have statements from them this time.
I always thought it was mandatory.
No, it isn't even mandatory in the regular election. It's optional
That's
there as to whether someone even submits one. But there, because we publish them and we put out the whole thing, we always try to get people to give us statements. And I think it's a good idea, and I think it's something we should do for the future, but we didn't ask them for it this time.
Well, as long as we
Today
got
is
them in
Tuesday.
before the meeting, that way people can see who they are, who it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, well, we will definitely put it on the website, the names, and we'll list them on the meeting agenda. We could ask them to submit a brief written statement. We wouldn't get it.
It wouldn't be mandatory, but they can if they wish to.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of timing, and we could probably do that. So we'll do that.
Generally, what we've done is the question and answer session after a brief statement. And that's, since this is a selection.
That's verbal. What he's talking about is a written statement that can be disseminated ahead of time. And it
Correct.
seems to me that we said we'd like to do that in the future, and we just forgot to do it this time. We would like to, so we need to institutionalize that because it's a change from what we've done before. So the next time an open seat comes up, make sure we do it, because Diana may forget. So as a committee, you know, if you can help make sure we do it. But so I will be sending the candidates an email after tonight saying that, yes, they were eligible and here's the process, and we can ask them for a brief written statement. So then it gets to what you're talking about, Gwen, which was the actual board meeting.
Correct.
What we did at the last, with the last vacancy, what Christian had suggested was that we ask them to introduce themselves and gave them up to 2 minutes to introduce themselves and to answer 3 questions. What inspired you to seek a seat on the board? What previous community experience do you bring to the board? And what committees are you interested in serving in and why? So we can go with what we did before. If you want to change it, we can switch it up, but that's what we did with the
Does
This bill.
Victor, you got your hand up. Do you want to talk?
Just a quick comment regarding what you said about what's going on the agenda. There is a line item for the selection. Right now, the candidates' names are not there. So if you can, I assume, Diana, send me the official names as they would like them. I know what Adrianita's is, but I don't know how Neil wants,
right.
you know, their name. So
Right.
send me that, then I can add it to the agenda and whatever else comes out of here.
Right, this, and then I have some planning stuff. So I'm after tonight's meeting, I'll be sending you all of the agenda items, and that would be part of it. Yes.
Just make sure the 2 names are part of it.
Yeah. So if you're comfortable with the process we used last time, then we'll just, and then I'll send them a letter with the questions and the details.
The
I like
only
it.
thing- additional Christian had said was like there would be a 5-minute question and answer period where he was going to restrict how many people questioned and answered. So it,
What we told the candidates last time was that there may, at the board's discretion, be a question and answer period. So
yeah, I mean,
we could say
I
that.
mean,
would be
it's,
fine.
I think well, most of the board knows Andronita, but nobody knows Neil. I'm a little confused also, like I think Victor is, whether it's Neil or Anelia, because I
Right.
see it in both ways. So
It is both ways.
Pronouns are important. I believe they, them is preferred, but that should be something that we should request at the beginning.
Well, Neil, he used Neil on the application. And so that's what we plan to use. And I've asked him about it before and he said, well, it could be either one. He didn't seem to be
Oh, okay.
sensitive about
yeah,
it.
if he wants pronouns, he needs to state them. It's confusing.
Okay, so if that's all okay with everyone, hearing no objection, we will include the 2 names on the website. We will, and listed on the meeting agenda, we will send the letter with the same questions as last time, asking them to introduce themselves and answer those 3 questions, and then give them the details of the meeting. What I'm going to need from you, Vic, and I will send you this also, we'll need to do a invite to both of them. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want them to get it until after they got the email from me saying we had, what the situation is.
I believe that both of them did create statements for the original election. They were both candidates for the formal.
You remember exactly? Did they?
Oh yes.
Yeah, they both had statements in, but we
statements.
don't have, I mean, they're in our newsletter from back then,
Well,
but
actually,
they may want to change them. So we'll give them the opportunity to submit brief written statements. And if they choose to use the same one they used before, that's their choice.
and I do believe that Christina, I believe, still has an accessible link that goes to that page. So they could potentially access their own statements if they don't.
It's still on Empower website too, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's on Empower LA.
Well, we could say, do you want to just, we could give them that option then of just using them, just telling us they want to use the same one.
Whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
They can
think
use the
it's up to
same one
them.
or
I think they
different
can
one.
just send it to us again if they want to use the same one.
Diana?
Yes,
Regarding the invitation, I assume you mean the invite to that particular board meeting, correct?
yes. Yes, just to that one.
Okay.
If
And
they're elected, then whoever's
also-
elected gets others, but yeah, just be to that meeting.
Then also send the email addresses, not just the names.
Right, that's what I'll do. Okay, that moves us to the second item, which is to consider the letter regarding the quorum interpretation of the Brown Act. I don't know if you got a chance to look at the draft letter, but this has been, dangling out there. Vic really raised it the first time here recently, and whether or not it's a quorum of a quorum that is, and the reality is that for the rest of the city bodies, it's a quorum. It's not a quorum of the quorum in a committee. You just can't have a quorum in a committee.
I've been reading this over and I read what the Dunn site said and everything like that. So a quorum, because we define a quorum as like, what is it? 9 people, 8 people?
9.
9.
Yes,
So
9.
9 people, as long as we had 9 people, then that's a quorum. And then a quorum, the majority of them, which is what they're considering, quorum and majority is sort of interchangeable in the language that I'm reading.
Yeah.
So they're saying here it's 54952 of
What's
the
that mean?
government code. They're
Oh.
saying it's it's more than a little confusing. A commission committee,
Yes.
what they're saying is that however, advisory committees composed solely of members of the legislative body, they're less than a quorum of the legislative body, are not legislative bodies. So what it looks like they're really saying is, then we become a legislative body if we have more people. That's this is in their B, and I think that's how they're interpreting it.
Well, the reality is that they're not interpreting it the same way for the rest of the city agencies. And so the point of the letter is to say, why is it that it's being interpreted different for neighborhood councils than it is for the city council or than it is for the harbor department? The reality is, if the harbor department, Board of Harbor Commissioners has 5 members, their quorum is 3. A quorum of a quorum would be 2, so they can never have a committee at all. The city council has 15 members. Their quorum is 8, so they could never have more than, say, quorum of 8 would be
4.
4. They can never have more than that on a committee, yet they've got committees of 6 members.
No, a quorum,
So-
a quorum of 8 would be 5.
That's what I was thinking it was 5. Cynthia said 4, but whatever it is, they've got committees, yeah, would be 5. That's what the letter says. There are city council members. The ad hoc committee on the Olympics has 6 members on it,
Well, there's a different thing
Oh.
on
quorum of 8.
ad hoc committees, but I'm
Good.
I'm questioning of both sides of this because they tend to do this, and we always tried to keep it down below a certain number before. That's why when you brought this up, I started looking at it, and I was looking for more case law on it. I hadn't had enough time to reference it all because there's a lot of stuff built into this.
Well, I don't think we have to look for the case law ourselves. I think what the purpose of the letter is to say to them, look, this is how it's being applied throughout the rest of the city. Why are you applying it differently? And if there really is such a requirement, why isn't it uniform for all city?
Does
Well,
it have to be uniform?
Well, you ought to be applying the rule uniformly. Yes, I mean, if it's the law, then it should be applied uniformly. That's how laws are supposed to be. And so so the purpose is to raise the issue and let them come back with case law or a very more specific that answers that question as to why. That's a suggested letter. If I would make that motion, but I would need a second and you need to support it. So I don't know if you want to do that. Seeing no second, we'll move on. What? Gwen has her hand up. Yes, Gwen.
Are we seconding could you phrase specifically what it was?
The motion,
The motion for the quorum of the quorum?
the motion would be to send the letter to the commissioners
Oh,
that you received a copy of that raises the issue of the quorum, the Brown Act interpretation.
I second that. So,
Okay. So it's moved and seconded. Any more comments before we vote? Okay, Craig,
abstain.
Cynthia,
Me too.
Gwen,
aye.
and I vote yes, and I'm not sure. I don't think that passes with 2 abstentions. I have to double check, but I don't think that'll pass.
Yeah, that's.
So,
Abstentions do not count as yes or no. So as far as
passes.
that part goes,
and
then
it passes. Yeah, that's what I had to check, Victor. Thank you. I was going to. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to consider the letter that Gwen wrote regarding the changes made by Dunn in the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council boundaries. Gwen, can you briefly talk about that, Gwen?
Yes, it's simply a letter of inquiry asking them to take a look at the boundaries and potentially comment on it and give us feedback as to how that might have happened. Did you guys get
Can you
to?
Can you put the letter up on the screen? Yeah, I have a couple of comments on the
That's what I
letter.
was looking for again to look at.
Give me a moment.
Yep.
Let me make sure I have the right one. Okay, that's the letter. Okay. And can you make me host?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, here,
I want to make sure I only have one item up.
wait a minute. Make co-host, there we go.
And give me a moment. Trying to see where the
So while she's doing that,
share
the,
screen. There we go.
what happened is that somehow when the Toronto Neighborhood Empowerment reissued the maps for our neighborhood council, they left out portions of our council. They appeared to have arbitrarily changed our boundaries, although it could have been an error. So if we can go up to the map, I mean, up to the letter.
The letter itself. This is for up for discussion. Diana, I addressed it to the president of Bonk and to the commissioners. Thinking of ceasing Raquel over at the Department of Neighborhood
Right.
Environment.
That's appropriate.
I don't know if the mapping is also done by which organization. It could actually be the COO's office. All of the mapping is done in a different area.
Right.
But
I discussed this with Ray. He's looking forward to getting a letter and he plans to raise it at the commission level. And it's not just us, other neighborhood councils also have said that there were changes made.
dramatic.
Doug said that they had lost the original maps and had tried to recreate them. I don't know if that's true or not, but that might account for it. I don't know. We don't know what happened. But the purpose of the letter that Gwen has written is to say to the Board of Commissioners, you know, you didn't consult us. You made these changes. Can we get it corrected? I do have a couple of suggested edits, Gwen.
Okay.
At the end of the first sentence there, I suggest,
This one here.
yeah, at the end of that sentence, I'm suggesting that you say, these changes were made without any consultation or notification to our neighborhood council. Because that's,
Any consultation or
Notification.
notification?
to our neighborhood council.
I would leave that out. We're getting too adversarial with everybody. We want them on our side. Why don't we just say,
That's a motion.
we notice these changes?
This is a motion for an amendment. We haven't seconded or
Oh,
put it-
you're right.
we're good. We're all right. We're all
Yeah.
right, Craig. This is
No,
a-
you're right. We were having discussion. Is there a second to the motion?
Well, as to your comment, can we?
No, I mean, we haven't had a second to the
Okay.
motion, so we should have a second before we have discussion. So,
I will second it for the sake of, discussion. So,
well, you made the motion.
no,
I made the motion for the amendment.
Okay.
so I'm seconding it.
Did we make did we make the motion in a second on the letter to begin with?
Not yet, because, you know, this is a committee and oftentimes we write the letter in committee before we do that.
Yeah, no, but if we're
That's
gonna make an
fine. We will
amendment,
do-
then
we will do that, Craig.
if we're just writing the letter, then it's a different story.
Right, so we will do that. Gwen, you want to make this as a motion? Your letter.
I am, okay, I motion that we entertain the letter to the Bonk and to Empower LA regarding the border of
Right,
neighborhood council.
A letter or the letter, the exact.
this letter,
This letter.
So a second. Right, I'll second it. So now we have a moved and seconded for that, for the letter. Now we have an amendment on the floor, which has been moved and seconded. So the first amendment was that these changes were made without any consultation or notification to our neighborhood council, which really is the point of the letter, is that they didn't consult us or even tell us that they were making any changes.
Do you believe,
Um,
do you believe that this language here, because I tried to be, this language over here is kind of in the same area. Oh, no, but they didn't consult us.
no,
And I gotta honestly say, the border changes, saying that they don't have the maps is entirely false, because I have found all within their own documents, all sorts of maps as to the actual mapping of the neighborhood councils. And in fact,
The area in question on the,
Yeah, what
Down by
area are
me.
we in?
has
Okay.
always been in question. It's
Okay.
always, the China shipping and Yangming have been going, has been a gray area since I can remember.
That's true, because John had a problem with that area with two of his people that voted, and they worked for that company.
that's
And
a different
it's-
issue though, Cynthia. This,
Oh.
if you look at the map,
Okay, here's,
the original map, it shows this
Yeah.
area as being in Northwest. So
Okay,
we're comparing the original
Which one
map,
are we talking about? The top or bottom one, the brown or the?
the
green?
top map,
The
20,
pink.
this map right here has been our,
I
has been
can't see anything that you're putting up there.
you're not seeing
Nope,
is anybody seeing it?
I see it. Cynthia
see
sees
it.
it.
I don't see it at all.
Really? Maybe, your view, your gallery view, fold it
Now
up.
it's up,
Maybe-
yeah, okay.
You
So
got
you're
it?
saying this one,
Okay, this right here is the original map, a portion of all of the districts that we have. We have the 4 districts, and from 2002, this is the map that we had from 2002 all the way up until 2019. This is that area, which is a census tract. Then this time around in 2020, they removed it. But what they also did is they chunked out this area right here. They chunked out that area on the east side of the freeway and gave it to our neighborhood council. Now, why they did that, that takes intent. That takes
What's there?
The
that's
police
harbor-
station.
That's the police station.
Oh.
That's the only property on the other side of the freeway. There's no inlet or outlet or anything over there. Now,
No,
I will say this, that if you go to Joe Buscaino's page, I actually provide a link in this letter that you guys can actually access and go to it. You will see that and in an earlier Wilmington map, in the earlier Wilmington maps, there is this area that is part of their area in Wilmington. So that's an overlap.
there was always been, that overlap has always been, that I've noticed, and it's been adjudicated one way or another, depending on who's running the election, when Dunn was doing it. But it's a disputed area. And I think we should lay a claim instead of saying, oh, you changed it without asking us.
I like having it.
Well,
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying the problem is when Wilmington made they grabbed every piece of port property they could. So they went all the
Ah.
way to the freeway. They took all of Terminal Island and everything else.
It's more
So
than that. It's more than that. To that point, Craig, and perhaps after this letter, we should have a full discussion about that, because I have comparisons of the old Wilmington map and the new
I hear.
Wilmington map. They've doubled their area, and it's essentially the entire port area going all the way to the breakwater is now Wilmington. And
Yeah, no, I mean, they've been doing this all along and they always claim that. And I've had this discussion with, during elections, because I think we should say, look, we are immediately adjacent to Yangming Terminal and to China shipping. And our residents live immediately adjacent to them. And they have traditionally voted in our elections that this was, a change that should not
That's the purpose of
be.
this letter, Craig, is to say that.
Right.
Yeah, I know,
You don't
but
like the
we
way it's
shouldn't do it
said.
in,
That's the
we
purpose
should
of the
lay
letter.
out our case for it instead of, and then not be so, why you're saying the amendment, what I'm saying is, let's try not to be adversarial. Let's try and say, these are the facts. Can you change it to our way to what we want?
Because they can
I mean-
always change it back to
fact-
Wilmington.
The
Yeah,
fact
no, I'm
is-
not, I'm talking about,
The fact, Craig, is that these changes were made without any consultation or
And-
notification to our, that is a fact.
so,
Lay out the
so,
facts.
so.
Yeah, really, it's like
so-
getting free money. I
so,
mean, you're not gonna complain and
what
say,
does it
because you didn't tell
matter?
me, I don't want it.
What does that matter? Why do we have to be adversarial? Why do we have to be the
That's
ones
not-
accusing them of doing something wrong? We just point out,
Ooh.
we think there was a mistake made. This has been this way. These are the facts. Please change it back.
Actually, Craig, can I, in regards to the list of possessions and assets, with that in mind, Madrona Marsh, or not Madrona Marsh, but this wetland area, what is it? What the one over by Kaiser, that big wetland right there.
I know, I always call it the alligator place.
Yeah, Clyde or whatever his name is.
Reggie's Outlook.
Reggie's Park, yes.
Exactly.
The Reggie's Marsh now.
So you know
Yeah.
that is an overlap area with Harbor City and Wilmington. This area is an overlap with Harbor City and Wilmington. There are other overlap areas.
Yes, I understand that. What we
Well,
need to
okay,
do
let me
is
just-
make the case that it is our area and why it's our area.
Craig,
Not to sit there and say you made this change, because this has been on every map going back and forth for years.
Okay, let's vote on, we've had the discussion on the amendment. Let's vote on the amendment.
Can I have a question and clarification?
Yes,
If
you
we-
can, Cynthia.
If we bring this up, does that mean that Wilmington's gonna now be fighting with us for it to have it back? And then we might lose it?
well, hold on. We're not at that point yet. We're trying to get answers as to why the border change.
Yeah.
But I meant, is that going to start them taking it away from us again?
It's
Well,
not a
it's-
secret. Well,
It's already not showing on our map, Cynthia, so we're trying to get it
Oh,
back onto our
okay.
map. It's
Yeah.
already been, and it's not just that, there's another area that, Gwen, you want to show them the other area so we can,
this
make
is
the
the
call.
other area. So we have always had Friendship Park and Bogdanovich Park within our area. And this is and this part of Western.
and the Elks Lodge.
And the Elks Lodge, yes. And this little area right here is a very odd little pocket. There's a couple of homes here. Now, what they've done is they've taken it and given it to Coastal.
Oh,
This little pocket of community has been stranded. They are on the other side of Western, and we have a very irregular border. And what that creates is, as Diana, you guys, before during the election, we were trying to describe the borders of our areas, and it's very difficult.
Very hard.
It's such an irregular border. We have like a big dragon of a shape as well. So it's tremendously difficult. And then we also have that county hole. So in regards to this, this was also, I had noticed on past maps, for some reason, Coastal had been given this area at one time as well. But we have always had this. And it isn't contested even by Coastal, that's our area. They have tremendous amount of park and recreational assets. And I will honestly say that Central and Northwest, Central really deserves more. And with the building of the harbor, that should be good. And that's part of a discussion later because they may be losing some of their harbor assets.
We're not
So we have a
disputing
motion.
the
We have a
borders,
motion.
but we're discarding the change that you want to make. So,
We have a motion regarding the suggested change.
Um,
I'm going to ask how people want to vote on it. Gwen?
I like the comment. I don't believe I'm still thinking about that particular placement of in the letter. No. Actually, that's a good spot. It's an inquiry. Is the word discrepancies appropriate at this point?
Yeah, it doesn't sound good. The right word, not good. It just doesn't sound like the right word. we want.
Discrepancies and changes, and that's kind of redundant.
It changes is what it is. Yeah, I think
Yes.
you're probably right. Take that out.
All right.
Okay, so we're
Changes.
voting on the amendment. Gwen?
I like it. Aye.
Yes. Cynthia?
I'm going to say no. I'd like to work on the letter more.
What, no, we're only voting on the amendment right now. That one sentence.
Oh, no, I don't like it.
Okay. Craig?
no,
No. So it's gonna fail. It fails. Okay,
I
so
think
take that
if we-
out. Gwen.
All right. I'm going to make it clear for now. Did you guys get to read the whole thing? Do you want me to read the whole thing?
No, people should read it ahead of time, or they can read it while it's on the screen. I did have another suggested change, and that was down where it says we would appreciate clarification and correction. My suggested change was just before that. And my suggested change was, were these changes intentional or simply errors? So I was trying to say, we don't know if this was intentional or not. It's kind of what Craig was saying a minute ago.
Yeah.
We would appreciate clarification and correction.
Yes. Now, in regards to your comment, Craig, I had, about the previous comment that we voted no on. Oops, sorry. Being contentious. I'm concerned that. Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that starting to nitpick about they own this, we own that, this is our place, we've always had this, might go down that same route. And actually that becomes adversarial when other neighborhood councils might hear that when there are contention areas. So in the comments that I made in some of the impacts, I tried to keep them to not asset related because it makes me kind of upset that they've removed 2 assets from Northwest, but that's not really where we are right now, where that would create bickering immediately with other neighborhood councils. So I tried to discuss the impacts to our stakeholders, the impacts to our borderline, and that simply, that right now all the borders are under review because of the 2020 census and population. And these changes to our border have nothing to do, it doesn't change the number of residents within our area. These are simply border areas of locations that have no residential population. So
They have business.
it doesn't conform.
One side has businesses, but the other side doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't
And they have,
it doesn't conform with any changes with the census tract. Oh, Craig, we can't hear you.
When?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, Yangming and China Shipping have significant voting populations because they're still stakeholders. They've always voted in our elections. Whenever asked, they've been in our elections. All we need to do is point out that just the salient facts.
Right.
That, we're physically adjacent to them. Our residents are physically adjacent to them. They've always voted in our elections. And the borders are shown differently now. The same thing with the other one, just the salient facts. It's not about, that they're trying to steal anything. I don't even know. I mean, I know what Wilmington was doing before, but I don't even think that it's relevant and probably isn't very relevant to them now. Have anybody reached out to Wilmington or Coastal about these borders?
I talked to Coastal about it briefly, and there's also been a discussion. The point we're trying to make here was simply that it was done without any consultation. With either it was Coastal wasn't consulted, and we weren't consulted. I don't know.
I think it was
I do
probably
know.
done
Can I say one
mindlessly.
more thing, Craig?
Yes.
And I am chairing the meeting, so I do call on people. Thank you. And I'm going to ask people to raise their hands because it's getting difficult because people are talking over one another. But one of the things that initially when neighborhood councils were formed, the whole idea was that neighborhood councils would establish their own boundaries. So there's a principle there. And the second part of it is that there was also a concept that two neighborhood councils could potentially share an area. And that was there from the beginning as well, although there wasn't a shared area initially. So now I see Gwen's hand, then Cynthia's.
I have been trying to turn off my hand for a while. So
Okay,
Turn
Cynthia.
off your hand. I almost forgot what I was saying, but it was to what Craig was saying. Instead of pointing our finger and saying, did you do this? And was it on purpose? And accusing them, if we just state the facts, like he says, that this is this and this, and we want to keep them with us. And we'd appreciate if you have any intention of changing in the future to let us know, and just keep it more friendly. And then they'll come to us instead of saying, well, the next time we try something, they're going to point their fingers and write a letter to us again like that.
I believe that that's the intent of that is how I composed this letter. If there's anything in particular wording wise that you think you want to strengthen a statement, please, this is the time to do it. Do you want me to read it?
I'm ready to take Craig's comments. Is there anything you want to change, Craig? Specifically, what would you change?
I mean, I'm just saying we should just state simply where the borders were. This is what we want, and it's salient. I mean, it's.
Okay, tell us which sentences you would like to delete.
I got to get the draft back up.
It's on the screen. Oh, you don't have any?
I'm in another.
But who is stranded? Because you're saying that we have stranded stake. Oops, I'm not supposed to be talking. Wait, I'll wait.
Oh.
With that, well, the two areas that I'm describing are first the China shipping area, the entire portion of Census Tract 295101 east of the 110 freeway.
Right, but they were never stranded. They were given to another neighborhood council, so that they were never stranded.
I would delete. Were these changes intentional or were they errors?
All right, take that out. That was a suggested.
That was a suggestion.
And then
this was the suggested wording that Diana proposed.
Take it out. I withdrawn it.
I would like to second that because I believe that that is the polite inquiry that reaffirms what we're doing without being confrontational.
It sounds confrontational to me.
Well, were they intentional? That's confrontational.
Well,
It's
well,
simply an inquiry as to whether it was intentional.
Yeah, then we
or
say
errors.
that. We would appreciate
Okay, so we'll
clarification,
vote on-
correction.
We'll vote on this again. So that's what it comes down to.
yes,
Gwen,
yes.
Cynthia,
No,
Craig?
No.
Okay, so we take it out.
I do believe that we do need some kind of question in here because I tried to create the action statement to get a reply. So an inquiry, a question, it would help to direct them towards an answer to us and a reply. So if we can formulate some kind of question, I think that that would be advantageous for getting a response in a timely manner.
Cynthia?
I think instead of forming a question, we should form an action. We would like this, this, and this, form the action. Assuming that we're right when we say this was ours and this should be in our area, do this, and then ask them to respond back to us rather than just
And
ask a question, because they'll give us a different answer than we want and go back and forth and we'll get it right away.
Please remove the removal of these areas within Northwest San Pedro. And once again, it's the entire portion of Census Tract 295101 east of the 110 freeway, excluding the block of property surrounding the Harbor Community Police Station located at yada yada. Of note, it appears that the 2020 Wilmington Neighborhood Council mapped border includes all property east of the 110 freeway. This is the, it
That's good.
appears the current revised Wilmington Neighborhood Council mapped border includes all property, including the Harbor Community Police Station
So Gwen,
east of the 110.
Craig
I
has
think
his
it's-
hand raised.
Yes,
Let's hear from Craig.
unmute Craig. Mute.
Craig, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry, I got a lot of background noise going on. We would appreciate in review and reply by January 1st, 2022. I think that's a little long on a time frame. Just, we would appreciate review and reply as soon as possible.
That's an open-ended.
Yeah,
ask. We really should have a date or something, Craig.
right.
I mean, you're gonna put it out for 2 years,
No,
a year, I mean,
well, but the holidays, you've got all the holidays and vacations. People take a week or two off.
I don't think, wait, pardon me, this is next
This is
year,
this
January 1st. I would, you need to, if you're gonna put a time frame in there, you need to put it
November.
like 90
December.
days.
It's less than 2 months. Yeah,
Too
Nobody's
much.
gonna make a decision over New Year's and Christmas.
that's why
So-
she has it linked in.
So it should be 90 day I would say within
February.
90
More.
days.
Oh, you're saying more, not
He's
less.
saying he's saying within 90 days.
90 days
Yeah,
rather than February 1st.
yeah, I would just say 90 days. That'll give them enough time to act on it.
With-
I mean, it's
Within,
going,
within. Use the word within instead of in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay,
motion.
anything else, Craig, that you want to change?
no, that's fine. with
Okay,
me. I mean, if there's anything,
great. Gwen, did you want to say something else before we vote?
I just want to make sure that the current reasoning meets everyone's satisfaction. To your question, Cynthia, regarding the ragged borderline, that is in direct response, a direct explanation of the borderline that surrounds us, and that the change has already created additional pockets of stranded stakeholders. Now, if you believe, Craig, you say that China shipping employees have participated in our elections and have brought things forward to us. If that's so, then perhaps this should be reworded to say that that omits stakeholders that have come before us, and or anything of that
This
nature.
omits our stakeholders, which within China shipping and Yang Ming. Because Yang Ming's the other side of China shipping, which is part of that. From what I saw on the map.
At this point, you know, to your point about not being adversarial, once you point out areas like that, because I will tell you that the history of China shipping within Wilmington and the Wilmington action groups, by even mentioning that, there will be certain people who have a historical stake in that court case, and then and the NRDC, that may bring the wrong type of adversarial comment back to us.
When
Hmm.
Craig said he was happy with the letter as it was written,
Oh, okay.
change of the within 90 days.
Okay.
I just have one question. Oh, yeah, where you are right now, you have ... Was that just to talk?
Yeah, it's an error. It doesn't want two spaces. It wants one space.
I would say on the current ragged borderline, identify that it's with our border with Rancho Palos Verdes. So they'll understand why it's ragged.
Well, it's Rancho Palos Verdes, and it's really ragged because of the La Rambla.
Yeah.
And it's really ragged because it followed census tracts. And so in other areas, it was the census tract boundary that caused it to be ragged. So it's not one thing, it is multiple things that cause it to be ragged.
I'm just trying to think of a way so that they'll understand what we're talking about when we say ragged.
Well, any way you do it.
Irregular.
We even have an appendix.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
We even have an appendix dangling over here because of La Rambla.
Yeah, they can look at the map and see it.
They'll see it, and they'll see that any which way you slice it.
So let's vote on the letter.
All right.
Craig?
Yeah, aye.
Cynthia?
Yeah, I like it.
Gwen?
Aye.
And Diana is a yes.
All right. Wonderful.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item was to look at the internal boundary descriptions. We spent a lot of time at the last meeting talking about these, and I just wanted to make sure that I had written them out right. I didn't want to go through them again tonight, so I just asked if you all would look at it ahead of time and see if they made sense.
They make as much sense as we could do. We did our best, Diana.
You didn't see any mistakes in what I wrote, in other words.
No, no, that was.
Anybody else? We're not going to actually act on these yet because we'll kind of wait. We don't need to yet, but I wanted to get that part completed. Okay, the next thing was the city clerk's report on the elections. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but city clerk completed the report, and I'm just going to go through a couple of the highlights. Was the number of certified candidates citywide increased by 4.5% over prior election cycles. I know we also got more candidates for our board. I don't know how much of that increase was actually due to additional neighborhood councils such as ours participating in this cycle. That was part of their increase. but their turnout, citywide, the turnout decreased by 8%. Our turnout went up. 65.6% of those who were registered actually voted, meaning that a third of the people who registered did not vote. Now, some of that was problems because they didn't get their ballots in time, etc. But there was also a pretty big fall off there between registration and voting. 76% of the voters were in the live work category. That means 25% of the voters were eligible under some other category other than living or working in the district. Nearly 20% of the voters used the drop boxes to return their ballots. So currently, the city clerk's office is planning to do both vote by mail and in-person voting in 2023. So that was a receive and file report, but I thought it was worth sharing.
I like that the drop boxes worked,
Yeah,
And they're
because now with the
clear.
post office slowing down mail, the boxes are going to be even more important to us.
that was one of the real problems with the election was the slow mail. And I know an earlier report I had seen, they were talking about next year changing some of the timelines to accommodate the slower mail.
Okay. Cool.
That was a deep concern. The drop boxes are permanent. Those are actual election boxes. I used it for this last election as well. So the one that is in Peck Park, that's a permanent fixture.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that
Can-
they didn't move them.
Can I refer back to something else about the vote we took
Yeah.
for the 2 abstentions? I just looked up, abstentions are in with, this is Robert's Rules of Orders.
You
Majority
have to look
voter,
at our bylaws, not Robert's rules. Our bylaws overrules Robert's rules.
yes, but we go by Robert's rules, not, you have to have a majority vote. And that would mean that you'd have to have 3 out of 4 people. And you only had 2 to 2, and abstention has the same effect. 2/3 of the member present as an abstention has the same effect as a no vote. So,
Yeah, except that our bylaws take precedent over Robert's rules if there's.
and where in the bylaws does it say that you have to have more, that you can, that it carries without a majority vote?
Well, as Vic
Says in section Article 5, Section 3, unless specified otherwise in these bylaws, an official action by the board shall be approved by a majority vote of the board members present, not including abstentions at a meeting where there's a quorum.
Majority vote.
Not
present.
including abstentions. So an
That,
abstention.
it
not-
still says majority vote.
No, but that's the whole point of that sentence is that you don't count the abstentions when you're considering a majority vote. So majority of those who actually voted. Where an abstention is not counted as either a yes or a no. And that was the whole intent of that paragraph when it was written.
redundancy of language is not in our bylaws. We don't put sentences.
I understand that, but it still says a majority vote of those present, and there is not a majority.
Not counting the abstentions. So you subtract the abstentions from the members present to determine what the majority vote.
You're flipping it. You're
That's what it
flipping
was written. That was how it was written, Craig. And I was there when it was written and I know what the intent.
Diana, you can say all this stuff. It said majority vote of those presents, not counting.
Not counting the abstentions.
There-
Was the
That
majority-
still, you still can't count. You still can't ignore that it wasn't a majority vote.
Well, we will let the board take it up. And they can determine how they want to handle it. I will explain to them what the situation was and they can determine how they want to handle it. So I did want to report that thanks to Victor, we've gotten an updated boilerplate for the bylaws that I'll be sending out to you. Just got it. And making a quick review of it, I think it's going to necessitate several changes to our bylaws. And that will be the focus of our next meeting. So I will be surveying you about possible meeting dates after I check on Ron's availability as well.
But
Is there
when-
any, that gets us to public comment. Is there any public comment?
I wanted a point of clarification. So once again, the Empower LA has come back, or the city council has come back with changes to our processes
To
that
to the bylaws.
we have to accommodate and reword and correct, so we are in line with those corrections.
Correct.
All right,
They've changed the whole boilerplate.
got it. Okay,
Unlike the times where they've just changed language, this time they've changed the boilerplate. And some places in there, it's optional to make the changes, and other places it appears to be mandatory.
okay.
Um,
Did
Okay.
they? No,
That's, then
question for later.
motion to adjourn,
Motion to
Seconded.
adjourn.
all in favor,
Aye.
adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Diane.
you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you for your work on that, Gwen.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys liked it. All right, thank you.
Have a
Bye.
good evening.
And leave.